Now here is the risk that the Browns had to take with I love you, Cleveland. And I love you, Ohio. And a very pleasant welcome to this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Hi, I'm Bruce Drennan along with Ryan Smith. Great to have you aboard. It's the last show that we will be doing from here in Cape Coral, Florida. I've been here, of course, first off in the Keys and Marathon, and these last shows over the weeks have been in Cape Coral. I'll be returning to our home studios in downtown Cleveland for next week's show. But we've got a lot to cover today. We're going to do extensive coverage. 3 of our segments are going to be devoted to the Cleveland Guardians. Bob DiBiasio, the vice president in charge of public relations, will be joining us to talk about a lot of things with the Guardians as the upcoming season is right around the corner with spring training well underway down in the desert. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing better, Bruce, than I was the last couple weeks because yesterday we reached 60 degrees here in Cleveland, Bruce, the first time in months. So perfect timing that you'll be coming back, and it looks like you're going to be bringing the sunshine with you.
Hopefully that's the case, and it'll be consistent. The worst, let's hope, is over as far as the bad weather back home. Couple of reminders. Nick Padone is going to be joining us on next week's show when we're back in the studio, and that is going to be devoted. We sent Nick to Indianapolis to cover the NFL Combine. So we'll have Nick on the show next week to give us firsthand reporting on what he observed, of course, leading up to this all-important NFL draft for the Cleveland Browns. And maybe we can get a better idea of what direction Barry and company are going pertaining to the picks that we do possess for the first time in quite a few years, quite frankly. The following week, Tanner Castora will join us. He's an NCAA basketball expert. The Selection Sunday will be the preceding Sunday of having Tanner on the show, and we will have him on to actually analyze all of the decisions the committee makes as far as the seeding, getting ready for the different brackets and, of course, the different regions, and we'll analyze the upcoming NCAA basketball tournament. So we look forward to that, Ryan. Of course, March Madness is upon us now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, although I am a little bit disappointed because my Bearcats, for the first time, were projected to make the tournament in the preseason, and there's still a chance, but they have absolutely crumbled and folded under the pressure in the second half of the season. So it looks like it'll be another year of me trying to find another team to root for in the March Madness tournament.
Well, we had Al Pulowski on last week, mostly talking about the new deal the Guardians have cut, which we'll touch upon with Bob DiBiasio as well today, the TV deal I'm referring to. And Al, of course, is also the play-by-play voice of the Cleveland State Vikings. And we talked about their chances in the Horizon League. And just about bottom line with them is they got to win the postseason Horizon basketball tournament in order to qualify for the big dance. So the odds are against them, but you never know. That's the beauty of that tournament, even though I'm against those tournaments, but they're not going to go. And the reason I'm against them, and we're going to get into the new top 25 a little bit later on in the show, but to refresh your memory, why I'm against them is taking away the importance of the regular season round robin. Used to be you have to win your conference championship to get into the NCAA basketball tournament or be one of the best runner-ups in the country. So, but it's not going to go away. I'm a realist. It's all about money. I want to devote the rest of the time here in the first segment, Ryan, to the Browns and the NFL Combine. I want to start with Will Howard, the great quarterback for our national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. He had a horrible combine, I understand. Couldn't even hardly complete a pass.
Yeah, he was missing short, he was missing medium, and he was missing deep. He did not look good. I mean, the sense was and he's very well-spoken, crushing the days where you're speaking to the coaches, you have your team meetings and all that, but on the field at the Combine, there were videos going around. He really couldn't hit the receiver for the life of him. I saw about 5 throws in a row where it was about 5 feet away from the receiver, having trouble leading them. So not a good Combine day for Will Howard.
Uh, do you get a sense after this combine, and Nick will nail it down for us because of firsthand knowledge when we have him on next week? Do you get a sense after this combine of what the Browns might do with that number 2 pick?
Yeah, Bruce, I do. And in fact, I think it's 100% going to be a quarterback. I would be shocked if it wasn't. To my understanding, the Cleveland Browns really, really like Shedeur Sanders. I think today that is going to be the pick. Now, Cam Ward will likely go 1. I would be shocked if the Titans passed on a quarterback as well. They talked about taking the best talent available, which might be Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. But I can't believe, unless they maybe go get Sam Darnold this offseason, that they're going to pass on Cam Ward. Cam Ward is probably the number 1 prospect in this draft. Of course, quarterback-wise, it's either him or Shedeur, but it seems like the Titans like him more. That being said, the quarterback available will be Shedeur Sanders. I don't think there's any way they trade out of that pick, and I think Shedeur will be the next quarterback here in Cleveland, Bruce.
Speaking of Carter, didn't he get hurt?
Yeah, so he doesn't need surgery. They thought maybe he would need surgery. Turns out he doesn't, and according to his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, shouldn't affect his draft stock at all, and I haven't heard anything to indicate that it will.
If indeed you're right, and the Browns do go with Sanders, let's assume that Ward goes number 1 to Tennessee and Sanders goes to the Browns, then he will have ascended from the mock drafts that we're all looking at.
Some of them, a lot of people have actually Shedeur now in the more recent ones going to the Browns after post-combine. It was said that, Shedeur crushed the team meetings. Kevin Stefanski is a big fan of Shedeur Sanders in terms of what he can do in terms of coming into Kevin Stefanski's offense, a very accurate pocket passer. Doesn't have maybe the raw athletic ability or the strength in terms of arm talent that Cam Ward possesses. I think that's obvious. But listen, Shedeur is one of the most accurate quarterbacks college football has ever seen, and that's exactly what Shedeur can bring into a Kevin Stefanski, a lot of play action, 2 tight end sets. That's what Kevin Stefanski wants, and that's what he's succeeded with.
Isn't size a concern? Isn't he more built his height than that, like a Baker Mayfield, rather than the taller brand of quarterbacks that we have seen star in the NFL of recent times?
I mean, there's certainly no Joe Flacco, no Brock Osweiler, no Trevor Lawrence, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" behemoths. But at the same time, Cam Ward isn't very big either. So if that's a concern for teams, I haven't heard of it yet, but who knows? I guess it could be. But they are both a little bit on the shorter end in terms of what a prototypical...
No. Go ahead, finish your point.
Yeah, I was just saying that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are probably both, in terms of the prototypical pocket passer quarterback, a little bit undersized.
Well, if indeed this is going to be the case and the Browns draft Sanders, I would think that they would still pursue a veteran quarterback to tutor the young QB from Colorado. While he develops. He's not going to jump in as the starter, I don't think, in his rookie season. Would this mean that the Browns would still go after a Kirk Cousins who would cost money?
That's exactly what that means. And it's interesting because when you bring up Kirk Cousins, the Falcons haven't yet said that they plan on giving him the post-June 1 cut. They're talking about making him one of the most expensive backup quarterbacks to Michael Penix. So I don't even know if he'll be available. I would assume he will be, but you never know. And Sam Darnold, another one, that would cost money. Now the Vikings are trying to reach a long-term deal now that they didn't franchise tag him in Minnesota. So the options, Bruce, are kind of limited. I would imagine it's a Kirk Cousins. I mean, there's also still the possibility that you bring back Jameis Winston. Nobody's talking about that, and I understand it's not likely, but that's still on the table there. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers. It's not going to be Russell Wilson, I doubt. So maybe Justin Fields. I don't know, Bruce. The options are still there, but if they do go down that route, most certainly they'll bring in a veteran to tutor the young quarterback that they draft.
Do you see any possibility, if indeed the Browns draft Sanders, that they would start him in his rookie year like Stroud started, like Daniels from Washington?
Not right away, I doubt, but certainly at some point in the rookie year, I don't see why not. Especially, I mean, if you're looking
But let me interrupt you.
Yeah,
then,
please.
Because if that's the mentality, then why would you bring Cousins in or some veteran?
I don't know. I mean, the New England Patriots kind of filled that mold last year. They started Jacoby Brissett, and then you slowly brought in Drake May to get him acclimated to the offense. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea to do that, even if it is just 6, 7, 8 weeks. I mean, that first period of transition to the NFL, I can imagine, is a big critical period where they, learn about how it is to be an NFL athlete. I agree.
But Brissett is no Kirk Cousins. And I can see that transition, but Cousins isn't going to come here unless he's guaranteed that he's the man. He's still got gas in the tank.
Yeah, and I think if he came here, he would. Well, that's the thing. He would be guaranteed to be the man like he was in Atlanta, unless he craps the bed, and that's on him then.
Well, it's going to be interesting. You just have to hope and pray if the Browns do go this route that Sanders is the guy. I guess if indeed this does come about, the Browns aren't concerned with any intervention from Papa.
It doesn't seem like that's the case. And, there were reports a couple months ago that Dion he never said he didn't want him to come to the Browns. The report came out. There were a few teams that he didn't want his son to go to. I don't think anybody ever really got the information out of who exactly those teams were, but I've seen zero signs to indicate that Dion has any problem with him coming to Cleveland. I have zero evidence to indicate that Dion would become, something of a bug in the locker room or trying to influence it in any way. I understand that's a common thought based on Dion's nature, but I'm not going to jump to conclusions that say he would do that,
Anything new on the Myles Garrett trade possibility, which would not occur until after this draft for financial purposes with the salary cap, obviously?
Yeah, no, just really no news. And, sometimes no news is good news, but maybe in this case it's not, because Myles Garrett is staying strong in his stance that it's not about money. It doesn't matter if he's going to be the highest non-paid quarterback in football. He wants to go to a place where he compete and win immediately and not waste away his career here in Cleveland, according to him. So no news on Myles Garrett.
Yeah. And I don't blame him, as I've said previously here on our show. I certainly have observed that the possibilities are that if he is traded, it would go to an NFC team. He would go to an NFC team. And one team that's emerged as a real possibility are the Washington Commanders, who obviously Philadelphia does not want to see Garrett go to them. So then I saw another story where Philadelphia might be interested in Garrett.
Yeah, you can never count out Howie Roseman in Philadelphia. You brought in Saquon Barkley. That was the big move. They freed up some space, got rid of some players, so potentially they could probably make it work with Myles Garrett if they got him, but the same thing, it probably makes more sense. He goes to Washington. You got the young, cheap rookie deal with Jaden Daniels. You could bring in Myles Garrett, immediately extend him. It'll be interesting, though. If those two teams want to have a bidding war for Myles Garrett, rightfully so. They're both, like you said, in the NFC Championship, so they're probably hoping the other one doesn't get it.
What do you hear on Chubb?
Well, Bruce, the latest actually report from Mary Kay is that she believes Nick Chubb's Cleveland football career is over. Andrew Berry at the NFL Combine said he expects Nick Chubb to test free agency. I'm not sure the Browns want to pay him. I'm sure there will be another team that gives him a chance to bounce back 2 years removed from his very nasty injury, to be seen, but it doesn't look like it's going to be our Cleveland Browns, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, and he might be damaged goods now. He's hurt those knees. He originally hurt him at Georgia when he was a great running back at Georgia, let alone since he's been a pro here in Cleveland. And the same thing with Chubb. If he's got another couple of years left, perhaps, I'd like to see him play for a contending team. And that certainly is going to be in Cleveland, Ryan.
Doesn't appear that way, Bruce, but I'll always hold a little bit of faith. Shedeur Sanders coming to Cleveland, turning the franchise around. I know it sounds far-fetched, Bruce, but if you don't have hope, what do you have?
Yeah, you can hope to win the lottery, too. It ain't going to happen in the next 2 years, I guarantee you. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. Bob DiBiasio, we will welcome Bobby D next here on Bonus Time with Drennan. Great to have you aboard on the Big Play Sports Network. Hi, Bruce Drennan here for my good friends out at Menor Nissan. Race Minchak and the crew, love them, of course. I drive a Nissan Rogue. So does my wife. We brought that Nissan Rogue down here with the overhead bin, the storage bin, which gave us plenty of room because we're down here for a duration of time and we need that space because I got to have all my golf outfits just in order, shoes, balls, everything else, the clubs. But I can't tell you how much I love that Rogue. Used to have a Murano, which is a little bigger Nissan product, and it's a great one. Check out the new 2025 Nissan Murano, the new 2025 Nissan Kicks, exclusive intelligent around view monitor, all kinds of great features. Of course, MenorNissan.com, MenorNissan.com. You'll find that Menor Nissan's a third generation family owned and operated company focusing on the high level of customer care and service and is a pillar in the local local community. Sales staff, service staff, second to none. I've represented several car dealerships throughout my career here in Cleveland on radio and television. Mentor Nissan, number one, at the top of the list. Take my word for it. Love you, Mentor Nissan. Check it out. MentorNissan.com, MentorNissan.com. Once again, I love you, Mentor Nissan. Great to have you back with us. Bonus time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Gives me great pleasure to welcome my old friend Bob DiBiasio, Vice President and Director of Public Relations for the Cleveland Guardians. See the shirt I'm wearing here, Bob?
I like it.
I dug it up. It's a little snug. I'm trying to tuck it in. But, I've been eating pretty well down here in Florida.
I was to say, you're enjoying life very well. So just wash that thing in cold water. Then it might fit better.
Yeah, well, I've been trying to stretch it and nothing seems to work. But anyway, Larry Dolan passed away. And we did a tribute to him here on our show last week, but I'm sure you'd like to make a comment or two.
Well, obviously, it was an incredibly sad day for us to hear of the passing of Larry Dolan. It obviously wasn't a shock as Larry had been in poor health the last number of years, and at his age in his 90s, again, it didn't come as a shock, but when it does happen, obviously it's very sad. His mark on this franchise, incredible in the sense of how he was able to just share a passion that all of us have for a local sports team. I mean, here's a guy who was one of us. For any young athlete growing up, being a fan of a professional sports team or teams, your dream was to play for that team. Your dream was to play on the field that they played on. And also, maybe back in your mind, it was a dream to own that ball club. Well, Larry was able to get on Cleveland Stadium and play football for St. Ignatius in the famed charity game, one of the most historic and traditional sporting events, especially in the high school realm in the city of Cleveland. Played at Cleveland Stadium around Thanksgiving and have, tens of thousands of fans, watching the charity game. And he threw a touchdown pass as a halfback. He intercepted a pass in St. Ignatius's first win ever in the charity game, helped them win their first city championship ever. So he was one of us. He was a catcher on the baseball team. And when he was given the opportunity to purchase his beloved baseball team, he took the chance and has made his mark. They've owned it now. This is year 26, Bruce. And for those people that are out there and they have to judge everything by a scorecard, I would just say that in the last 25 years, that's a quarter century of baseball. The Dolan ownership has the third most wins in the American League. Only New York and Boston have more wins in the last 25 years. And we're seventh in all of baseball. And us and the Cardinals are the only small market teams among the top 7 in the last quarter century. So they've put together an incredible sustained winning culture and a philosophy of caring in the community. So it hit all of us hard at our offices.
Yeah, and the main goal, of course, of winning a world championship, now that we are the longest tenured team to not have one after losing to the Cubs in 16, eluded Larry before his passing. But God bless him and rest in peace. Well, there's a new television package, and I had Curtis Danberg, your colleague and vice president of the ball club, a couple of weeks ago on the show explaining. So rather than going in all the details of that, I still keep getting the question of that it's going to be explained on how to get the games, more clarification toward the end of spring training. Is that right, Bob?
Correct. As things go always in business, negotiations go down to the deadline, and deadline is March 27, an opening day of the Major League Baseball season. And what I'm referring to is the negotiations to have our games found on cable or satellite. Obviously, right now, you can go to cleveguardians.com/watch and get all of the questions and answers about, clevelandguardians.tv, how you can stream those games and stream the spring training games for free. But the negotiations with Spectrum and all the others is ongoing. And so that's, again, somewhat of a normal process in any negotiation. You talk hard right up till the end until you make a decision. So we're very, very confident. Obviously, we'll be able to announce prior to opening day, which again is Thursday, March 27th. We're at Kansas City that day, that we'll be able to announce how you can find television in the cable universe, the satellite universe, if streaming is not the way you want to go.
Keep us posted. We are going to shift gears now with Bob DiBiasio after the break and talk some baseball. Guardian season right around the corner. Bonus time with Drennan. Big Play Sports Network. Resuming with Bob DiBiasio of the Cleveland Guardians front office. And of course, what a successful season a season ago. Stephen Vogt in his rookie year as manager, what a job he did. And of course, it's a new season. There's new challenges. Detroit is emerging. It's funny. Going into last season, our division was considered by everybody, including ourselves, I think, to be honest, as the weakest division in baseball. Here it turns out to be the most competitive. 3 teams from our division made the playoffs, and I think it's going to be a 4-team race this year.
Couldn't agree with you more. It's not going to be a cakewalk to defend our American League Central title and get back to playing October baseball. It's going to be tough. I think the 39 games we play, Bruce, against the Twins, against the Royals, and against the Detroit Tigers are going to be the most impactful of the season. And fans need to circle those games on their calendar and get tickets and get to Progressive Field for every time we play the Royals and the Tigers and the Twins. It's not going to be easy. You're right. The Tigers, after a number of woeful years, 100 lost seasons and good drafts, they've put themselves in a position to be a pretty solid baseball team. And so you're right. It's going to be tough. Our focus this year, what I love about the message that Stephen Vogt has given this ball club from day one is never hesitates to reference a 7-month baseball season. We all get into the habit of talking about the daily drama of the 6-month baseball season. But more importantly, October baseball needs to be added to that. So that's really the mantra, some unfinished business. And we are planning and preparing for a 7-month baseball season.
Well, I think everybody consensus opinion, and around the major leagues as well, that we have the best bullpen in baseball. It's been added strength with the addition of Sewell. They couldn't be happier with that addition. But obviously, the starting rotation looks to be Bybee, Williams, Ortiz. I really like that acquisition from Pittsburgh. Lively proved that he can be very serviceable a year ago. That other spot is up for grabs. But the guy I want you to comment on is Bieber. Every report is that he's ahead of schedule. Originally, it was the All-Star break. It might be sooner than that, huh?
Well, you never know because every athlete's different in how their body responds to rehab, and certainly how the body responds to surgery. But Bruce, if you'd be able to watch him walk around the complex and watch him in his bullpen sessions, he is a man that is no slump shoulders. He's not sulking. He's not, he is upright, strong, confident, has a great bounce to his step. He's feeling great about where he is, and that's only a good sign. I mean, think about it. Let's say it's even June 1st or mid-June when we get him back. That's like making one of the best mid-season trading deadline moves of any club in baseball.
Yeah, Yankees didn't get Cole until the All-Star break.
Right. So in that regard, we feel real good about the fact that here's a guy who's feeling awesome. The ball's coming out of his hands really well. Carl Willis is ecstatic, and everybody is, as to his performance to date. So it's just nice to see a real confident Shane Bieber walking around the complex.
I don't think there's any concern about the pitching because you get this game into the 5th, 6th inning, and if we're in the game, even down a run or two, or certainly tied or in the lead, look out for the Guardians with that bullpen. But there is concern about the run production. And even though it was a pleasant surprise to see that improve so dramatically a year ago, Josh Naylor is gone, replaced by old buddy Carlos Santana. Will his numbers suffice in the absence of Naylor power-wise? But I think the real key and comment on this is the ascension and development of Noel and Manzardo as far as power. And they've got to continue to develop up and provide in that category, do they not?
Absolutely. We absolutely need more production out of right field. Will Brennan has come into camp. He spent the offseason weightlifting. He's a different looking guy and much stronger and real excited. Big Christmas has spent a lot of time in Goodyear in the winter, going over his swing plane, plate discipline that you're looking for. Kyle Manzardo, plain and simple, he's a hitter. That kid is a hitter. He drives the ball all over the ballpark, and I think from the DH spot and spot starts at first base for Carlos, as Stephen Vogt likes to mix and match how he does DH and give people days off. I think you're going to see the DH spot be much more productive because Kyle, he's the real deal when it comes to getting a bat in his hand. And again, what Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff and Stephen Vogt have talked about, Bruce, is our young guys have to take a step forward offensively. Bo Naylor has to be better offensively. Brian Rocchio has to continue to do what he did in the postseason. Hopefully Stephen Kwan doesn't get this nagging injury that he had mid-season, and he can stay one of the premier leadoff hitters in the game of baseball that generates offense and excitement for us on the bases. And then Jose, he just looks the same, which is a good thing.
Oh, yeah. Underrated superstar. You can't say enough about him. Let's take a break. Come back. Another segment with Bob DiBiasio, Vice President of our Cleveland Guardians. Bonus time with Drennan on Big Play. Well, Bob DiBiasio of the Cleveland Guardians is here, and now it's revealed I'm coming out of the closet as I did last week. I want to be a New York Yankee. I can't hide it any longer. Although, second thought, this is itching so much and shedding as well on this beautiful Guardians t-shirt. I better rethink this whole process, Bob. What do you make of that?
Well, I think one of the keys in life is listening. And I think finally the front office, Hal Steinbrenner specifically, had listened to the players long enough, saying, hey, what are we doing here? It really doesn't make much sense. And if you can remember just a few years ago, the brouhaha that was involved with our um, bat boy that's used in the visiting clubhouse had long hair, and they made a big deal out of the young man happened to be Jim Rosenhaus, Hammy's partner, his son, who works in our visiting clubhouse, and they made such a huge deal. But the players, Rizzo, Aaron Judge, they went up to Nathan and just kept saying, don't you dare tuck your hair under your ball cap. Keep it that way. If you get fined or any stupid thing, we'll pay it. They were all over it to make a point. So
Well,
I don't make much of
I'm
it.
traditional, so
Yeah.
I'm traditional, as you know. So that's the one thing about the Yankees I always admire. What about give us an update on the robot ball and strike thing that's being experimented upon in spring training?
It's awesome in my opinion, only because people need to understand the umpire does not have some buzzer in his mask. It's still the same game. Okay. It's exactly the same as it's been for 100+ years. The only difference is the hitter, the catcher, and the pitcher have two chances. They don't look in the dugout and have some videotape replay tell them to challenge. Doesn't happen. It happens way too quickly for that to be in the process. So you have two challenges. And it takes about 5 seconds, 5, 7 seconds. They throw it up on the scoreboard. Everybody in the stands can see whether the pitch was a strike or a ball, and it's announced immediately. And be honest with you, in my recollection of watching all the games, it's almost been like 90% the umpires are right. And so I don't think it's had any effect.
But there's Bob. Let me jump in. Every umpire has a different definition of the strike zone. He may give the low and away pitch. He may give the high and in pitch. It's up to the hitters and up to the pitchers to adjust to that umpire's definition of the strike zone, provided that umpire is consistent. Everybody agrees they've got to be consistent. That'll go away if we incorporate this.
Well, and that's one of the things I think over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, the competition committee that has done the no shift, the larger bases, pitch clock, trying to really work through nuances of our game to make it better, is there should be a regulated strike zone. There shouldn't be, a player shouldn't have to go to the plate remembering, oh, okay, so-and-so's umpiring today, so low and away. But he didn't call that low and away. So the consistency aspect makes it tougher. So I think the consistent strike zone makes it easier on an umpire that, okay, and it's almost more of an oval than it is a rectangle, which is interesting. There's a couple articles.
Do you anticipate? Do you think this will be incorporated next season, 26?
I don't know if it's 26, but again, since they've done it in Class A, AA, AAA, and now in big leagues in spring training, it's getting close. And so therefore it's gonna happen. Whether or not it's 26 or 27, I don't know. But
what have the umpires said about this? Have you heard any of their comments? They got to toe the line, I realize, but getting behind the plate now, if they incorporate this, he's just going to be standing there for a possible play at the plate. That's his only function, is it not? Unless he's covering up at first base, as they do when they rotate.
But again, remember, there's no buzzer telling him what to say. So it's still the human element. It's all human element. The only thing is a guy gets to say, hey, you know what? I think that pitch was high and outside. in this scenario. And so now teams have the philosophy of, do we wait till the seventh inning and keep our two challenges late in the game? If there's bases loaded and one out in the second inning and it's a 3-2 count and the hitter is absolutely sure that it's a ball and therefore a run scores, let's go for it now. It's going to be an interesting element. I would tell you that I have not heard many comments by umpires. But at this stage, again, my observation is they've been more right than wrong, so they have to be okay with it.
Yeah, well, I've always contended that they do the best job of the four major sports as far as officiating games.
And it might be the hardest.
Yeah. Bob DiBiasio, always a pleasure, my friend. We will see you back in Cleveland. I know you're going to be down in the desert for a while yet. Let's do it again, and go Guards.
Thank you, Bruce. Take care, sir. Go Guardians indeed.
Bob DiBiasio of the Cleveland Guardians front office. Back in a minute, we're going to talk about the Cavs and NCAA college basketball. March Madness right around the corner. Thanks once again to Bob DiBiasio of the front office of the Cleveland Guardians. Well, the Cavaliers, again, a winner last night, 139-117 over Chicago. Mitchell, 28, 7 rebounds and 5 assists. Allen, 25 points and 17 rebounds. Amazing. Strus in double figures. Jerome off the bench in double figures. Mobley was rested. Fourth quarter, amazing how the Cavs outscored Chicago 43-23. But the game I really want to talk about, Ryan, is last Friday against Boston, when they jumped out to a 25-3 lead and Tatum went into that tirade and cussed off our team. And heaven knows he had an unbelievable game with 46 points, 16 boards, and 9 assists. But Donovan Mitchell led the comeback with 41 points as the Cavs got back in the game to really start a run of 41-22. And the fourth quarter, the Cavs outplayed Boston and came away with a real meaningful victory on the road. That was huge.
Bruce, it was absolutely massive is what it was. I mean, to go down 25-3 against the reigning champion on the road, and then not only to make it a competitive game again, but to come back all the way and win convincingly, that just speaks volumes to this Cavs team, the culture that Kenny Atkinson has built, and just also how deep this Cavs team is. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is a superstar. We know that. Evan Mobley is ascending into a superstar. We know that. But it's guys like Ty Jerome coming off the bench, making an impact in every single appearance with limited minutes. That's not easy to do. And DeAndre Hunter's impact has been massive for this team, right? Nobody wanted to see, well, some people did actually, George Niang and Karis LeVert off the team in terms of locker room and impact and culture guys. But Bruce, the Cavaliers don't win that game if they don't make that trade. And that's exactly why they made that trade just about a month ago, to get DeAndre Hunter, to get length, to get athleticism at that threes position, a guy who can guard Tatum, a guy who can guard Jaylen Brown and rotate on centers when needed. And right now the Cavs formula is just working to an absolute T, and I give them all the credit in the world.
And Sunday, the 133-129 victory over Portland, DeAndre Hunter had 32 points and 7 rebounds in that game as they gave Mitchell a rest. So it enhances your point, just rolling and proving all the critics wrong. Let's just hope they're physical enough in the playoffs, because that's when it's going to come down to. Before we move on, I want to cover briefly the NCAA, because we're winding down the season. Auburn, number 1 team in the country, for the 8th consecutive week, got beat last night, 83-72 by Texas A&M. But indeed, Bruce Pearl, his team appears to be the number 1 overall seed. Duke, coached by John Shire, wins by 37-35 this last week over Miami and Florida State. But the scoring margin in the country is the best at plus 22 for them. They have won 22 of 23 games going back to Thanksgiving weekend. So the heir apparent Shire doing a great job in replacing Krzyzewski. Houston, 21-1 in their last 22 games after starting the season 4-3, Kelvin Sampson, Big 12 champs for the second season in a row. Tennessee and Florida flip-flopped in the 4 and 5 spots in the ratings. Of course, the buzzer-beating victory for Tennessee over Alabama. St. John's, Big East champions with a win versus Seton Hall. What is Rick Pitino doing with that white good humor outfit? For God's sakes, I wanted a candy bar, an ice cream bar with nuts in it. And Michigan State, number 7, with a 71-62 victory over Wisconsin. That solidifies Izzo once again is going to be the team probably going the deepest in the NCAA tournament concerning the conference. Alabama down to number 8, 2-3 record in their last 5 games on Texas Tech and Iowa State, who is now healthy, so they could be a dangerous team as well. So I mentioned a couple of weeks we'll have Tanner Castora once Selection Sunday comes around, and following that selection, we will have Tanner on to dissect everything with the upcoming NCAA tournament. All right, Ask Bruce segment next. Bonus time with Drennan. Big play. By the way, this is the last show that we're doing from down here in Cape Coral, Florida. I'll be back in the studios next week. And with that being said, we have a major announcement to break on next week's show. Don't miss it. Bonus time with Drennan. Major announcement. I think you're all going to be happy with what we will reveal. Now let's reveal the questions in the Ask Bruce segment. Fire away, Ryan.
All right, we'll start here with the Guardians. Hey, Bruce, which do you think will be tougher for the Guardians to replace this season? Andres Jimenez Gold Glove at second base, should say Platinum Glove at second base, or Josh Naylor's 30-100 production in the lineup?
I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to a combination of Carlos Santana, and as I talked with Bobby D, Manzardo, Noel, Bo Naylor, all developing, continuing their development. We know what we're going to get out of Carlos. He's got a great knowledge of the strike zone. He's going to get his share of walks. He's a contact guy. He won't have the power numbers of Naylor, but I think these other guys will make up for it. So I would say Jimenez defensively, because I think one of the most underrated portions of the game is defense in baseball. They talk about the other sports, but think of this. There are no pitchers in the major leagues, none, that average 10 strikeouts a game. There's 27 outs in a 9-inning game. There's none that average 10 strikeouts. Therefore, those pitchers are depending on the guys behind them with those gloves. That's how important defense is. So, yeah, Jimenez defensively, I think, would be the answer to that question.
All right, well, speaking of second base, hey, Bruce, what do Juan Brito and Aniel Martinez's rough spring training stints mean for that second base opening?
Well, Brito's known for his offense, and I think they're hoping that he can adequately man the second base position defensively with Rocchio, his double play combination at short. So hopefully, let's be optimistic that he can, because he should hit. He's always hit in his minor league career, and I think the fans will be pleased when they see him at the plate and his presence. But the defense will be the key, no question.
All right. Hey, Bruce, with repeated injury troubles to Chase DeLauder, which outfield prospect, excites you most?
Well, he's the guy, obviously, and I don't think that we have the depth there that we do in other positions on the team, particularly pitching. My goodness gracious, that bullpen is just awesome. There's going to be guys that do not make this roster for opening day in the bullpen that could be pitching. They could be 7th, 8th inning guys on any other team in the majors, just about. That's how deep the Guardians are at that position. But I do think that DeLauder is going to be a dandy. From all reports, he's a can't-miss prospect. But I'm very happy with Quan in left, and obviously Lane Thomas, who I've commented a lot about here on our show. Right field, Will Brennan, along with Noel. And remember, if we get Fry back, that will help too, as far as depth purposes. But we'll have to just, improvise until we get fully healthy. But keep your fingers crossed we don't suffer any more injuries. But I think the outfield will be fine.
Alrighty. Hey, Bruce, with Eric Sabrowski's injury, who do you expect to be the last arm in the bullpen for the Guardians?
That's up for grabs. My goodness gracious. I mean, they are just so loaded. Another guy is Means they picked up. I hadn't even talked about him. He was another guy they picked up during the offseason. You know what I loved most about Vogt's managing last year in his rookie campaign? And of course, he's got arguably the best pitching coach in the major leagues in Carl Willis alongside of him. But I like the fact that he didn't hesitate, except for Clase and the traditional closer's role. He didn't hesitate using all these guys, Smith and Gaddis and all of them. One day he'd have them working the 6th inning. The next day he'd have them working the 8th inning or the 7th inning, and he flip-flopped. So they were all acclimated and comfortable in those positions throughout the season. And it wasn't just, this guy's the 7th inning, this guy's the 8th inning, Clase's the 9th inning. I really liked that, and I think he'll do it again. And it's even enhanced with Sewald, because Sewald's been a very successful closer, and he can work that 6th inning, 7th, 8th, or 9th if necessary.
All right, well, that's it, Bruce, and that's also it for our Florida shows.
Like I said, major announcement on next week's Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Don't miss it. And I am Bruce Drennan. On behalf of Ryan Smith, you have a good week. We'll see you next week. Until then, as always, and most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio. And I love you, Cleveland.
Welcome to Big Play, the fastest growing sports media company in America.
I'm gonna keep it straight with you. The reason you should watch our show is because I look good, baby.
Come get some!
Join our millions of fans for live sports talk shows hosted by the top former athletes and sports personalities in the industry.
Ohio, it's my home state.
Obviously, I'm a diehard Cleveland sports fan.
Watch what you want, where you want, when you want. Welcome to Big Play.
Make sure you tune in.
Bye.